truly they had sold our seats. Not that we came late, we were still there.
Yeah.
Then we had to board, remind me again, Medview Airline. That was the Port Harcourt trip down to Lagos. And the Abuja trip down to Lagos haven't been delayed for like 6 hours. And if you were actually ill, then you're a dead man with no reasons. Intermittently, she comes on the public address system to tell you, well, Arik Air has been delayed for another 1 hour, 25 minutes. And you would think, okay, since it's, 1 hour, 25 minutes, you just scream and it gets to 1 hour, 25 minutes, and she goes there again. Well, Arik Air flight, blah, 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 to Lagos will be delayed again for another 1 or so hours. And there it was, a daytime flight, because I truly abhor flying in the night in Nigeria. Yes, I must say that. I don't like night flights. And finally, that was what Arik succeeded in doing. And the captain finally comes, and it looks like he was picking those who were actually obviously not Nigerians because of their skin colors. He picked them, and when it got to a turn, he said, well, it was full. I said, well, wait a minute, this is my ticket. And I think Mark and I got in. Then the doors were shut against yourself and our producers, and we got in. We just realized that people were already on your seats, on our seats, and that's it. Boy, until he said he wasn't going to fly, because perhaps maybe we were, risk. You know, it took, even the Department of State and so many other people to come into this matter. So Chamberlain, when I try to describe this so that it doesn't look like a personal issue, is because of the frequency with which Arik will never deliver. Arik will, you'll be there at the airport, Arik will never be on time.
Pardon me, and this was a flight schedule for 2 o'clock.
For 3 o'clock.
And as at 6.
Nothing happened.
It hadn't even taken.
At 7 o'clock, nothing.
When did they even arrive?
And it was until I got to Lagos I realized that some of those who were on that flight were actually going outside the country. Most of them lost, I think, missed their flights. And no thanks to the almighty captain of that Arik Air. And no thanks to Arik's tradition of never taking off when they should. And no thanks to NCAA that is scared of Arik, because until they tell me that they're not scared. Once we saw an aviation minister that was trying to sanitize things, this same Arik said, no, we won't fly. And people thought maybe the former minister was being high-handed, you know, in the handling of that particular matter. But now we know that Arik is cashing in on some kind of subtle monopoly of the nation and trying to make sure that everyone suffers. If you won't fly, we can actually declare you persona non grata to fly our airline, and they have actually done that to a couple of people. And if you complain, I won't be surprised tomorrow they say, well, I can't fly Arik. In any case, I don't want anyone to put me on Arik anymore, because an airline that is so insensitive, an airline that would look people in the eye and blatantly tell you, go on the public address to say, well, we won't take you because you insisted on sitting on your seat. Well, not in a violent way. We have to be very, very, and we have a pilot that will be hitting his airline like, you know, you see the downfall bus drivers. I haven't actually seen anything like that. But until the nation tells me that is the way to go, until the nation tells everyone that the NCAA is just a toothless bulldog, that nothing can actually happen, then we know what to do from there. But for now, I think NCAA and Minister Osita Chidoka, this is the time for you to let Nigerians in on this particular matter. Let us in on the deal the nation has with Arik. If the deal is punish them, if the deal is about, well, we can't sanction you when you err or you breach, why fly?
You know, it's no wonder that we are a nation that have so many private jets. Because if we're actually to have our businessmen and women,
those who have private jets.
I'm not blaming them.
No, I'm just saying those who have been blaming them now, I know that, well, I think we should apologize to them.
If my nation was serious about, you know, running businesses, we keep inviting investors to come into our country. Is this the only airline we're going to be offering them? Apparently, as Flyman said, they're a monopoly. And whether or not you like it, they fly the most routes within this country. And as such, it's a seller's market for them. So the question is, who checks them? I mean, as you rightly pointed out, we have been on this particular airline for more than 8 times this month alone. So it's not like as if we just woke up one morning and all of a sudden we realized that, you know, this is the service that they give. This is not even about us. This is about the many other passengers who oftentimes do not have choices, who have to fly all the time and stomach this nonsense. Because usually, we were in the airport at that terminal. Yeah. The terminal, by the way, was very full. Passengers were going to all sorts of destinations. Flights had been delayed. Going to these destinations, Warri was delayed, Asaba was delayed. And then all of a sudden, Benin was also delayed. At some point in time, at about 5, 6, thereabout, all of a sudden, all of those flights were announced within minutes of each other. There was confusion at the counter. First of all, that already was recipe for disaster. So a lot of people knew that there was something in the offing. And then you get to the foot of the aircraft. You're now delayed at the foot of the plane, and then you know that there is something going on here. Apparently, you know, passengers had been lumped together. So different flights that were supposed to have gone at different times had been lumped together in one plane. Of course, you know that was a recipe for disaster. And so eventually it was getting to a situation where you have to select passengers. Unfortunately, our team was divided. 2 of us got on board and the remaining 2 were outside. And we simply refused to fly without the rest of our team. And it was right, because we all had valid boarding passes to be on that particular flight. Now you get into the plane, you see that business class seats are empty and you're being told that your flight is full and the flight is about to move. We insisted that we were not going to move an inch until these seats we're seeing here are filled. Now, at some point, because there was an uproar in the plane, as it were, the pilot comes in to find out what exactly is going on. We tell him our story, and he says, well, he cannot upgrade us because, and we simply say, we're not asking to be upgraded. We're asking that those who have valid boarding passes to be on this flight, fly. That was all we are asking for. It was not our first time on ARIC. There was no way we were going to carry economy tickets and be going, you know, and be asking for business class seats. That is definitely not normal. So there was no way you were going to be doing that. It was not our first time on a flight. But eventually, when our colleagues came in, we were told another different story that, oh, the pilot said he wasn't going to move. Apparently, there was also some business that had gone on outside the plane. The question is, what sort of, you know, situation gives room for this type of altercation? What business did we have with the pilot in the very first instance? Why did seats have to be taken up? And then eventually, because, you know, some people, we have to give it to them. Not all members of staff, you know, members of staff of that particular airline, most of them, you know, understand the situation on ground, can feel passengers' frustrations, and sometimes they do try their best to make sure that passengers are comfortable. So you get on the next plane, you know, while they're trying to make things up to you. And then the pilot is busy apologizing to business class passengers whom they had oversold. You know, apparently they bought a smaller plane, and so there weren't sufficient seats. First of all, that plane was supposed to be going to Asaba, so they had disembarked the passengers going to Asaba to make sure that that plane was coming to Lagos. So they had very few seats for business class. So they had passengers who had bought business class tickets sitting in economy. This is an airline that claims that they cannot upgrade because it's not company policy. So they could degrade their passengers who had business class tickets to sit in economy. Who compensates those people? Who compensates them for the time lost at the airport? These people that we saw there were businessmen and women, apparently. At least we knew some of them, you know, by their first names and know the companies they work for. So it's not like as if, you know, they couldn't afford or couldn't maybe have their own private jets. If we're really being serious in this country in terms of, you know, investment, in terms of businesses, in terms of even tourism, which is something that a host of states are looking towards, who wants to be on a flight or something that is not, you know, sure, a schedule that is not sure as to when exactly it's going to take off? Who protects your rights? Who ensures that when you ask for service, you get service, and when you don't get service, you get compensated? Who does that? And that's what we're asking the Ministry of Aviation this morning. We thank God that the new minister is on the seat. We know his records at the FRSC. At least I know him personally. And we hope that something is done about this particular sector. Delays upon delays. It happened when we were going to Abuja as well. It was the same story. So they come around whispering, Abuja to Lagos, no luggage. Abuja to Lagos, no luggage. This is at 3 o'clock for a flight that's supposed to be happening at 1. We understand that passengers who had an 11 o'clock flight were on the flight at 3 o'clock. Who does that? In what country? Are we running the banana aviation ministry? We have to